Something was subtracted from your spiritual account while you were sleeping, and you didn't even notice. I'm not talking about amounts you count on paper or metal coins, but about a reserve of vitality, a credit of purpose that should be yielding fruit in your daily life right now. You feel like you work, you give yourself, you pour energy into every project and relationship, but at the end of the month, at the end of the day, the account always seems empty. The feeling is like you're carrying water in a sieve, or that there's an invisible drain sucking away your drive before you can even finish the first task of the day. Today, you're going to understand exactly how this theft mechanism operates. You're going to discover why, despite all your dedication, the progress you seek always seems to back away just as you get close to touching it. I'm going to reveal the implicit contract that allowed this drain to be installed, and more importantly, I'm going to show you the way to stop that leak and reclaim what is rightfully yours, what was entrusted to you even before you were born. Have you noticed that there are days when physical exhaustion doesn't make sense? You sleep, you eat, you try to get organized, but you wake up with a weight that doesn't belong to your body. It's as if you're carrying the fatigue of a journey that isn't yours. Another clear symptom is the feeling that nothing yields. You put in twice the effort, but the results stagnate. There's a disconnect between your effort and the manifested reality. Plus, have you noticed that conversations that used to bring lightness now seem to drain your battery? You find yourself avoiding certain places and certain people, not out of lack of love, but because of a clear intuition that your energy is being fought over. Many times, you catch yourself questioning if you're on the right path, or if perhaps you've lost your own essence in the middle of so many external demands. You feel like you're constantly recalculating a route that never seems to reach the final destination. That's the deepest sign that your spiritual account is suffering unauthorized withdrawals. You are not inefficient. You are not lazy. You are not incapable. You are simply someone whose reserve of intention has been attention. You need to prepare yourself now. I have prepared material for those who doubt their own calling from God and still do not have confirmation. Are you one of the chosen? We'll give you that clarity. These are the 7 signs of the language of the calling, marks of God in the story of every chosen one, so you can reread your story and recognize the purpose sealed over you before the foundation of the world. Stop calling coincidence what is actually a calling. Stop silencing the sacred restlessness. Stop postponing the answer you feel. Your window is closing, and a chosen one who does not recognize the calling does not walk in purpose. More than 10,000 people have already read the 7 signs and received the conviction they had been seeking for years. They were just like you. They felt something no one understood. They lived in silent doubt, and they discovered it was real. And it had a name. The offer is open only this month. Access the link in the pinned comment now before doubt steals another year from your calling, diverted by obligations that don't belong to you. Your fingers typing these 3 numbers are your signature of agreement with the truth. It's the acknowledgement that, although the loss has been silent, your perception of it is absolute. Type 888, acknowledge this movement and then come immediately back to me. The truth is, this drain didn't start now. It's the result of a whole life operating under other people's expectations, trying to fill other people's gaps while your own foundation was left exposed. You accepted responsibilities that weren't yours, embraced pains that weren't yours to carry, and without realizing it, you ended up handing over the key to your spiritual account to a system that feeds on your overgiving. But understand, what I'm calling theft is not a final sentence. It's an invitation to audit. Most people go through their entire lives never questioning why their internal resources are always in the red. They blame bad luck, time, the market, or their own failures. They don't understand that energy is a currency. If you don't place a guardian at the entrance to your treasure, anyone can withdraw. The reason you feel this way, operating in a void, is that you've been trying to supply the world's needs with an energy that should be used for your own expansion. You've become a facilitator of everyone's life, except your own. And when you put yourself last, you automatically allow the flow of blessings to be redirected. Now take a deep breath. Let the air fill every cell of your being. What has happened up until now was necessary for you to reach this moment of clarity. There is no mistake in your journey, only a deep lesson about boundaries and about who really holds authority over what you produce. The bank of your soul has an owner, and that owner is you. No one has the right to withdraw what was deposited in you for a greater purpose. But to reclaim what was taken, we need to look at how you have seen yourself. You see yourself as a servant of circumstances, when in truth you are the guardian of a legacy that needs protection. The pattern of self-sabotage you observe is not a character flaw. It's a reflection of an upbringing where you were taught that being good means being useful to others, even if it costs you your own vitality. We are about to go one level deeper. What I am about to reveal to you is not a theory. It is the structure of your own story, the way you built brick by brick, this barrier that prevents abundance from flowing where it should go. When we understand the exchange mechanism, you will see that the solution is not to work more, but to remove yourself from the frequency where theft is possible. The image you need to hold in your mind is that of a great warehouse, a vast courtyard where all your talents, your aspirations, and your peace were stored. For a long time, you left the gates open. You let anxiety in, other people's opinions in, the fear of failure occupy the space meant for your creativity. You did not protect your account. What you have been experiencing as exhaustion is just the system's alarm. Your spirit is emitting a sound signal that the balance is low. And instead of despairing, you should thank this alarm. It is the only thing keeping the rest of your reserve safe. If you didn't feel this tiredness, you would keep giving everything you have until nothing was left. Your pain is your defense mechanism. It is the proof that you still have something valuable to protect. What I am describing is the transition from scarcity to sovereignty. When you stop trying to prove your worth through exhaustion, you begin to attract what is yours by alignment, not by effort. Life does not want your sweat. Life wants your presence. The world does not need your sacrifice. The world needs your authority. And that authority begins when you say to yourself that your energy is sacred and that it is no longer available for contracts that do not honor your existence. Look around you. How many of the things that consume your time and attention actually contribute to the person you are becoming? If the answer is almost nothing, then you already know where the hole is. You are investing in lost funds. You are putting your vital capital into ventures that have no return value for your soul. But from this moment on, the audit has begun. The closing of the old accounts is necessary for the opening of new horizons. To understand the root of this drain, we need to look at what was planted in you long before you had the awareness to decide what to cultivate. The pattern of self-sabotage you observe is not a character flaw. It's a reflection of an upbringing where you were taught that being good means being useful to others, even if it costs you your own vitality. You learned to validate your existence through giving, through the ability to bear weights that weren't yours, and through the belief that if you rested, the world would stop spinning. That is the silent legacy of the generations that came before you, people who could not afford to stop and who, out of fear of scarcity, taught you to live as if there were always an imminent lack. You inherited a compass that points only to what others expect. Every time you feel guilty for saying no, or every time you feel the need to explain why you are absent, it is this old pattern in command. It convinces you that your value is measured by the amount of energy you can distribute in a single day. But the truth is, you are operating in a system that was designed to keep you busy, not fulfilled. You are being drained by expectations that aren't yours, by obligations that don't bear your seal, and by promises of recognition that never materialize. Now imagine clearly the metaphor of your spiritual bank. You have an account where all your energy, your creativity, your time, and your love are deposited daily. That is your life reserve. But over the years, you signed invisible contracts with people, with situations, with traumas, and with beliefs that have power of attorney to withdraw from that account without your permission. Every time you enter an environment where you have to make yourself smaller so the other person doesn't feel threatened, a debit is recorded. Every time you hold back your voice to avoid a conflict that would actually be your liberation, a withdrawal is made. Those invisible contracts are draining your balance. You feel exhausted not because you're weak, but because your balance is being subtracted by causes you can no longer even name. It's like trying to fill a bucket that has holes in the bottom. No matter how much effort you apply, the water will always escape. The bank is not bankrupt, your spirit is not empty, but your access to resources is blocked by those authorizations you gave back then, out of fear or need for approval. What you are experiencing as paralysis, as a sense that nothing yields, is just the result of an account being drained by others' demands. The exhaustion you feel is not a punishment. It is not a sign that you have nothing left to give. On the contrary, it is the most sophisticated safety alarm your being possesses. When you feel physically drained, mentally foggy, or emotionally dry, your system is actually trying to prevent you from giving away the last drop. That deep tiredness is the way your spirit says the limit has been reached. It is the protection mechanism that preserves the essence that still remains. If you did not feel this discomfort, you would continue to empty yourself until nothing of your original identity was left. The suffering you call a problem is actually your salvation. It is the evidence that there is still a part of you that refuses to be completely consumed. It is the proof that you possess something precious, something so valuable that your own system goes into emergency mode to prevent it from being wasted further. What you have been living as a burden is the call to audit. If something inside you now vibrates with this clarity, if the image of an account being drained by contracts you didn't even remember signing makes sense in your chest, pause now. Feel the weight you carry and realize that for a moment you are no longer trying to carry the world. You are just observing the process. Let the acknowledgement seal where it has just landed. The act of typing these 3 words makes the testimony permanent in your own record. Type them now with the intention of one who takes their post and then return immediately to me. The return to sovereignty does not happen through an epic effort or a new journey of conquests. It happens through silence. The frequency audit is the process of stopping the authorization of withdrawals from an account that belongs only to you. It is the conscious act of revoking your permission from what for years drained your essence. You don't need to build a new version of yourself. You only need to disauthorize the connections that no longer serve your original purpose. Imagine you have a master key. A key that opens the door to all your internal resources. For a long time, you left that key hanging on the door, accessible to anyone who showed a need, a pain, or a demand. You were too generous with access, and now it is time to take back the key. When you practice the frequency audit, you begin to identify one by one the invisible contracts you signed out of fear of not being enough. You look at the obligations you took on with people, environments, and expectations that were never yours. You realize that your tiredness was just the price you paid for keeping those doors open. Now, visualize yourself closing those doors, not with anger, not with resentment, but with the calm of someone who finally understands that your energy is a currency of immeasurable value. Every time you withdraw your attention from a situation that drains, you are actually making a deposit into your own account. It is a process of reallocation. You are bringing back to the center of your being what was scattered in directions that went nowhere. At this moment, feel the lightness that comes from stopping trying to explain your absence to those who never cared about your presence. You owe no justifications to those who always saw your value only as a source of supply. The return to sovereignty is, above all, the acknowledgement that your peace is non-negotiable. When you decide to stop giving what is sacred to those who don't take care of what they receive, you experience an immediate shift in your frequency. It's as if, suddenly, the level of your internal reservoir starts to rise again. The secret of the frequency audit is in disidentification. You stop defining yourself through the tasks you perform and start defining yourself through the essence you preserve. If this understanding has found a home in your heart, if you feel that your spirit has finally stopped bleeding to feed expectations that weren't yours, allow your movement to be physical, like a mark of commitment. If something in this acknowledgement confirmed what your intuition always whispered, let your like be your amen without words. Do not see it as a metric or a number on a screen, but as an agreement, an invisible seal that confirms you now assume full custody of your resources. It is your yes, delivered in silence, for the restoration that began the moment you clicked to hear this message. There is someone now, in your circle or in your recent memory, whose face appeared in your mind while we spoke about this invisible exhaustion. Think of that person. Maybe it's someone you see working day and night, someone who carries a heavy silence and seems to have forgotten what it's like to be the owner of their own life. That person lives in the same exhaustion you lived, operating on an account being drained by demands they no longer understand. That person needs to hear about the audit. They need to understand that tiredness is not weakness, but a sign that they are still valuable. Send this record to them, not as advice from someone who knows more, but as a gesture from someone who was rescued and wants to reach out to those still caught in the draining process. Sometimes the simple fact of knowing we are not alone in the struggle is enough for the key to start turning in the lock. Before this moment ends, and before you return to the rhythm of your day, there is one last thing that needs to be engraved in your identity. You are no longer the depositor of others' needs. You are no longer the bank of sacrifice for those who do not honor your presence. You are the holder of sovereignty, and that sovereignty begins with your own acceptance. Do not do it as a request or a hope, but as a declaration of ownership. It is the final confirmation that you have terminated the contract with scarcity, and that from now on you only allow what is aligned with the abundance that dwells at your center. Feel the words as you write them. Let your fingertips confirm what your soul has already decided. You are the chosen one to live the fullness of your own balance with no more authorized withdrawals. No more invisible drains. Only the integrity of your being, finally back home. You are loved. You are chosen. You are called to the table that was prepared before your birth, where no withdrawal is allowed and no debit is authorized without your full consent. You are committed to the truth that now pulses in your hands. You are commissioned to be the guardian of your own abundance, watching over what is sacred, with the authority of one who no longer submits to invisible contracts of exhaustion. You are sent to live in fullness, not as a future goal, but as an inheritance that was held in custody until you were ready to claim it. Now, feel the solidity of this position as you stand firm on the ground of your own dignity. At this very instant, in every corner of the world, others are hearing this call and feeling exactly this same restoration. You are not making this move alone. There is a silent network of souls who, like you, have awakened to the awareness that your value cannot be subtracted. In distant cities, in silent homes, people are realizing that the spiritual account is not empty. It was just being accessed by those who did not have the key. We are many, scattered across geography, but united by this recognition that needs no fanfare to be real. You are part of this lineage of awakened ones who decided that scarcity no longer inhabits their territory. The frequency is aligned, the record is corrected, and sovereignty has been returned to its rightful owner. What you have been feeling is not chance. It is the echo of a systematic theft that operated for years in the shadows of your routine. When I speak of something that was subtracted from your account, I mean a life energy, a vitality that should be fueling your projects and your dreams, but has been drained to feed other people's expectations. You feel exhausted, not from overwork, but from overgiving to targets that don't match your frequency. There is a fatigue that no physical rest can cure, because the source of your tiredness is a continuous leak of spiritual resources through gaps you didn't even know existed. Notice, for a moment, the repetition of your days. You wake up with the feeling that your effort is like pouring water into a punctured bucket. You work more, give more, dedicate more, and yet, at the end of the week, the feeling is that the balance is exactly where it was, or worse, in decline. The exhaustion you carry on your shoulders is the first sign. It's a sense of being in a constant race, where the horizon never gets closer. It is not just a number. It is the seal that you have become aware of the breach, and that from now on, vigilance over your own energy is being re-established. Type 8, 8, 8, then come immediately back to me. The diagnosis is simple, but deeply painful. You inherited survival patterns that no longer serve your expansion. You were trained, perhaps for generations, to believe that a person's worth is measured by how much they sacrifice. That lie created invisible contracts. You became a bank that accepts all withdrawals, that honors all others' debits, forgetting that your own spiritual account needs reserve for your own journey. You have been operating under the belief that saying no is a form of selfishness, when in truth it is the only defense mechanism that protects your purpose from being dissipated into needs that don't belong to you. Imagine your life as a high-frequency financial temple. Inside that temple, there is a vault that holds your essence, your clarity, your intuition. But for years, you left the door open. People, demands, other people's fears and expectations from a past that no longer exists, walked in and took what was precious. They stole your enthusiasm, swapped your peace for anxiety, and left behind the debt of guilt in its place. Every time you feel guilty for prioritizing your own growth, that's the echo of an old contract trying to charge a toll on your freedom. What you call bad luck or a block is actually the consequence of an account that was drained by people who had no permission to be there. But the suffering you've been experiencing isn't a punishment, it's an alarm. It's the deepest part of you, the part that still holds the integrity of your essence, screaming for you to realize that your life's inventory is being used for other people's purposes. If something inside you just clicked, if the image of an account that needs to be protected suddenly brought clarity about why you feel so drained, type the words, "I am here right now." Let that declaration plant your feet firmly on the ground where your temple is built. That short phrase is your mark of presence, the moment the keeper of the vault finally takes the watch. Type it and come right back. The solution doesn't lie in more effort, but in a relentless frequency audit. You don't need to find a new source of supply. The original source never dried up. You just need to close the accounts that weren't opened by you. Starting today, pay attention to who or what demands your attention and time without giving back in equal measure. Every time you hold back, every time you preserve yourself, every time you deny access to your inner space to someone who doesn't honor your light, you are making a deposit into your own account. It's an exercise in sovereignty. Abundance isn't something you build out there. It's something you stop losing in here. Your value is non-negotiable, and from this moment on, access to it is restricted only to what is sacred, what is pure, and what is genuinely your life's mission. You are now changing the lock, and for the first time in a long time, you are the only one with the key to your own fullness. If anything revealed today felt like a confirmation, if you felt that the words echoed here were like a gear shifting into place in your life, let your like be your wordless amen. It's not about metrics, it's about the silent acknowledgement that what was named here is the truth you carried in your chest without knowing how to say out loud. It's the seal that you accept responsibility for your own abundance and for protecting what is yours. There is someone right now, in this very moment, whose face just came to your mind. Maybe it's someone you've known for years, someone who always seemed inexplicably exhausted. Or maybe it's that person who, like you, always worked hard but saw the fruits vanish before they could even harvest. That person is living the same silent drain, the same insecurity about why effort doesn't translate into peace. Send this content to them, not as a casual suggestion, but as a necessary delivery. You were the vehicle for this message to reach you, and now you are the channel for it to reach someone else who also needs to be restored by this truth. Before this moment closes, before we go back into the flow of hours, I want you to make your final commitment. Type the words, "I am the chosen one," here in the comments. Don't do it as a request, but as a decree of ownership over your own life. This is the final seal of your spiritual audit. What was taken won't come back the same way, but what you now hold, what you now protect, will be the foundation of your new harvest. Starting tonight, your spiritual account no longer tolerates unauthorized withdrawals. You are committed, you are commissioned, you are sent. It is sealed. Attention! You need to prepare yourself now. I have prepared material for those who doubt their own calling from God and still do not have confirmation. Are you one of the chosen? We'll give you that clarity. These are the 7 signs of the language of the calling, marks of God in the story of every chosen one, so you can reread your story and recognize the purpose sealed over you before the foundation of the world. Stop calling coincidence what is actually a calling. Stop silencing the sacred restlessness. Stop postponing the answer you feel. Your window is closing, and a chosen one who does not recognize the calling does not walk in purpose. More than 10,000 people have already read the 7 signs and received the conviction they had been seeking for years. They were just like you. They felt something no one understood. They lived in silent doubt, and they discovered it was real. And it had a name. The offer is open only this month. Access the link in the pinned comment now before doubt steals another year from your calling.